Being yourself hurts for a reason. Nietzsche exposes the hidden price. Number 4. They tell you to just be yourself, as if it's easy, safe, natural. But Nietzsche knew the truth. Being yourself is a dangerous act. It hurts. Not because something is wrong with you, but because everything around you is designed to make you someone else. Your authenticity is rebellion. And rebellion always comes at a price. The moment you stop performing, the world pushes back. Friends fade. Institutions resist. Comfort vanishes. The crowd calls you arrogant, unstable, selfish. But Nietzsche believed that pain isn't the problem. It's the proof that you're on the right path. Because the deeper you go into your real self, the more you'll have to shed, and the more you'll lose what was never truly yours. This is episode 4 in our 7-part Nietzschean awakening. And this time, we go right into the fire of selfhood, where freedom demands isolation, and truth demands blood. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because this episode will hurt, but only because it's healing something the world wanted you to forget. Price 1. The moment you become real, you become a threat. Being yourself isn't neutral, it's provocative. The moment you stop fitting in, stop pleasing others, stop hiding your edge, the world doesn't cheer, it tightens. Nietzsche understood this with ruthless clarity. Authenticity is a threat to the herd. Not because it's evil, but because it's uncontrollable. And the herd fears anything it can't predict. You've felt it. The tension in the room when you say what you really think. The subtle punishments for being too direct, too intense, too alive. The awkward silence when you don't play the polite game. That's not your imagination. It's the system rejecting what it cannot tame. Nietzsche believed that every authentic human carries danger. Not violence, voltage. When you live from your core instead of your conditioning, you become a mirror the herd can't look into. You reveal their fear, their fakeness, their forgotten hunger. And they will hate you for it. This is why being yourself hurts. Not because it's wrong, but because it exposes everything false around you. The more real you become, the more others will cling to the lie. And in their eyes, you become the problem, the disruptor, the enemy. But Nietzsche saw through this. He knew the price of authenticity wasn't rejection, it was freedom. The cost was high, yes, but the reward was truth. The kind that burns away pretense and leaves only fire. And fire never asks permission to burn. The real you is not polite, not passive, not easy to market or manage. The real you disturbs. The real you speaks with thunder. And when you step into that version of yourself, don't expect applause, expect resistance. The world will call it ego. Nietzsche called it becoming. So when you feel the sting of rejection after being real, remember, that sting is not a warning. It's a confirmation. You're no longer living to be accepted. You're living to be true. And that truth is untamable. Tell me in the comments, when have you been punished for being your real self? And did it make you stronger? Price 2. Authenticity destroys belonging. You were wired to belong. Evolution built you that way, for survival, for safety. But Nietzsche knew the cruel twist of becoming yourself. The deeper you go into who you are, the less you'll fit where you once belonged. Authenticity, by its nature, exiles you. The more you express your truth, the more you realize how much of your life was built on pretending, on agreement, on shared illusions. And when you stop pretending, everything shifts. People pull away. Conversations dry up. You feel alone not because you're broken, but because you've stopped being fake. Nietzsche didn't see this as failure. He saw it as purification. The stripping away of false alliances. The burning of bridges that led nowhere. He believed that solitude isn't a punishment, it's the cost of alignment. When you no longer belong to the crowd, you begin to belong to yourself. This is why authenticity hurts so deeply. You start to notice the cracks in your friendships, your job, your family, your faith. You try to hold on. You try to explain. But the truth won't shrink back. And neither can you. Because once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. You weren't meant to belong to everyone. You were meant to belong to something true, and that truth will never be found in the comfort of conformity. Nietzsche's message was clear. Walk alone if you must, but never betray yourself to be accepted. The herd doesn't hate you because you're wrong. They hate you because your authenticity reminds them of the parts of themselves they had to bury. You make them feel. You make them doubt. You make them ache. And most people would rather numb that ache than face it. But you've chosen the harder road. You've chosen to lose the world rather than lose yourself. And in doing so, you've taken your first step toward becoming what Nietzsche called the sovereign individual, the one who doesn't beg for a place, but creates it. So yes, being yourself will cost you belonging. But what you gain is something far more sacred, integrity. And that is the foundation of any life worth living. Tell me, what have you had to walk away from in order to stay true to yourself? Price 3. The death of the old you is not metaphor, it's grief. No one tells you this, but becoming yourself means killing who you thought you were. And that death isn't poetic, it's painful. Nietzsche understood this intimately. To evolve, you must burn through the version of you that was built for approval. And that version won't go quietly. You grieve who you used to be, not because it was right, but because it was familiar. You grieve the habits, the beliefs, the relationships, the smiles you forced just to survive. And that grief cuts deep. Because it's not just about change, it's about loss. Nietzsche didn't romanticize this process. He knew that becoming real feels like falling apart. Not once, but many times. It's death by shedding, truth by demolition. Each layer that peels away feels like betrayal, until you realize it was betrayal to stay. But grief is not regression. It's transition. It's your soul acknowledging that something sacred has ended, and something greater is trying to begin. You can't rush it. You can't bypass it. You must sit in the ashes of your former self and feel everything. The pain comes not because you are failing, but because you are shedding what no longer fits. And like a snake molting skin, it feels raw, exposed, vulnerable. But you cannot grow while clinging to what is already dead. Society says, move on. Be positive. Get over it. But Nietzsche would say, descend. Mourn. Let it rip through you. Because only those who have faced their own dissolution can rise without illusion. Only those who have grieved can give birth to something true. There is nothing weak about mourning your former self. In fact, it may be the most courageous thing you ever do, to let go of the mask, the role, the dream that no longer holds you, and to emerge, not polished but real. So if you're in the grief of becoming, stay. Don't run. Let it break you open, because what comes next is not a return. It's a resurrection. Tell me in the comments, what part of your old self are you still grieving? Price 4. The war within. You will resist your own becoming. The most brutal truth Nietzsche exposed is this. The greatest resistance you will face will not come from others. It will come from within. You will sabotage yourself. You will doubt yourself. You will cling to comfort even when it kills you. Because becoming who you are is terrifying. There is a part of you, deep, scared, programmed, that will fight to stay the same. That part will whisper, it's too late. You're too much. Stay safe. Don't change. Nietzsche knew this voice well. He called it the residue of the herd, the ghost of obedience inside the one who seeks freedom. You'll feel it in moments of growth. The urge to pull back, the sudden shame after speaking your truth, the craving for validation just when you start to stand alone. It's not weakness, it's resistance. And resistance is the clearest sign that transformation is near. This inner war is part of the process. Becoming is not a straight line, it's a battlefield. You will be both the soldier and the enemy. You will build, then doubt. Rise, then fall. But Nietzsche urges you to continue, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Most people lose this war. They make one bold move, feel the backlash, and retreat into the comfort of conformity. But you are not most people. You've seen the lie. You've felt the fire. And now you must choose. retreat, or resurrect. The resistance inside you is not proof that you're on the wrong path. It's proof that you've left the path others made for you. And what you build now must come from within. From instinct. From soul. From scars. There will be days you miss the lie. Days you long for the mask. Days you beg for the quiet numbness of the past. But Nietzsche would whisper, "Don't go back. That life was killing you quietly." The pain of becoming is the pain of finally waking up. So when the war begins inside you, don't panic. Pick up your weapon, your truth, your breath, your refusal to shrink. You are not broken. You are breaking through. Now tell me, what part of your becoming are you still resisting? Price 5, the pain of clarity. Seeing through the world's illusions. Becoming yourself isn't just about changing you, it's about changing how you see everything. Nietzsche warned that as you awaken, you won't just lose your old self, you'll lose your illusions. The world you once trusted will begin to look false, hollow, even grotesque. And that vision will hurt. You'll see the conversations for what they are, performance. The institutions, machines. The traditions, comfortable lies. You'll see the way people hide, behind morality, behind busyness, behind fake smiles. And in that seeing, something shatters. Your innocence. This is the pain of clarity. To know too much to ever go back. To be awake in a world that wants to sleep. You'll want to scream, to shake people, to show them. But Nietzsche knew, not everyone wants to wake up. And the more you see, the lonelier it gets. Clarity is not a gift. It's a burden. It isolates you. It weighs on your soul. You look around and wonder, how did I ever live like that? But you also wonder, how can I live now that I see? That in-between space, between who you were and who you must become, is a kind of spiritual purgatory. But Nietzsche would say, stay there. Feel it fully. Because in that tension, something divine is forged. You are no longer being programmed. You are being recoded. Your vision is being sharpened, not for comfort but for creation. To see clearly is to suffer. But it is also to become dangerous. Because once you see through the system, you're no longer trapped by it. Once you see the world's masks, you stop wearing your own. And in that rawness, in that revolt, your true power awakens. And then something deeper happens, a shift that cannot be reversed. You stop waiting for truth to come from outside. You begin to recognize that the only compass that matters now is within. That inner compass was always there. But clarity burns away the fog so you can finally see it. Clarity makes you a creator, but it begins by making you a witness to the illusions others still live under. A witness to your own past blindness. And in witnessing, you grow, not in judgment but in depth, not in arrogance but in power. You were meant to see, even when it hurts, even when it costs you connection. Because from your seeing, others may begin to question what they thought was real. And that is how you become not just free, but dangerous in all the right ways. Price 6. The loneliness of the creator. Nietzsche knew that those who dare to be themselves are condemned to a kind of sacred solitude, not because they are antisocial, but because they have chosen a path so real, so raw, that few have the courage to walk beside them. To create yourself is to lose the crowd. The creator, the one who dares to carve a new self, a new vision, a new morality, walks alone. Not forever, but long enough to build something the world has never seen. And during that time, the silence can feel crushing, the distance unbearable. You'll feel it as you change. Friends will fall away. Conversations will feel shallow. People will stop recognizing you, because you've stopped playing their version of who you were. And in that gap, the loneliness sets in. But Nietzsche believed that this loneliness is sacred. It is the crucible in which true strength is born. When you are no longer fed by validation, you begin to eat from your own fire. And that fire is what creates art, movement, philosophy, truth. The herd is loud. The crowd is safe. But the path of the creator is silent and terrifying, until one day it isn't. until you begin to feel the power of your own voice echoing through the emptiness, until your solitude turns to sovereignty. Nietzsche didn't want you to be liked. He wanted you to be true. And truth doesn't come with a fan club, it comes with a cost. But once paid, it makes you unstoppable. Loneliness is not the absence of people, it's the absence of false belonging. It's the space where illusion dies and truth begins. And the ones who stay long enough in that space don't come back the same, they come back radiant. Because once you create yourself in solitude, you don't seek crowds, you attract souls. Not many, but real ones. And that kind of connection? That's not company, that's communion. So honor the loneliness. Don't rush to fill it. Let it shape you, deepen you, expand you. Because when the world finally hears your voice, it won't be an echo, it will be a roar. Price 7, the unforgivable act. Refusing to apologize for who you are. There is a moment, rare, powerful, irreversible, when you stop apologizing. Not for what you've done, but for who you are. And that moment, Nietzsche knew, is where your transformation becomes real. Because in a world built to make you shrink, refusing to apologize is rebellion. Apology is often disguised as humility. But for the awakened soul, it becomes a ritual of shame. You feel the pressure to soften your words, dilute your vision, smile more, need less. And slowly, piece by piece, you betray yourself, not out of malice, but out of fear. Nietzsche called this the corruption of the spirit, the slow erosion of your essence in order to remain palatable, acceptable, love. But what kind of love demands that you amputate your truth? What kind of world asks you to beg for forgiveness just for existing as you are? To stop apologizing is not to become cruel. It is to become sovereign. To say, this is who I am. This is what I see. This is how I burn. And I will not dim it to make you comfortable. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. And yes, people will call it arrogance. They will label you cold, selfish, intense, ungrateful. But Nietzsche would ask, who are they to define your light? Who are they to measure your soul with the ruler of their fear? Refusing to apologize is the final act of self-ownership. It is the declaration that your life is not a performance, but a presence. And that presence, unfiltered, unapologetic, changes everything. It breaks the game. It shatters the script. And when you stop apologizing, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop waiting for permission to exist. You begin to live in your full frequency, and that frequency is not polite. It is powerful. Some people will leave. Let them. Some will misunderstand. Let them. You are not here to be digestible. You are here to be divine, raw, radiant, and unapologetically whole. So ask yourself, what part of you are you still softening to be like? What truth have you muted so others feel safe? Now tell me in the comments, what would it feel like to stop apologizing for being exactly who you are? You were never meant to be easy to swallow. Being yourself will cost you everything that was built on a lie, and Nietzsche knew that's why most people never do it. The price is steep. Rejection, loneliness, grief, resistance. But you've felt it now. You've looked into the pain, and instead of turning away, you leaned in. And that pain? That's not your enemy. It's the birth canal of your freedom. In every step of this journey, when the world pushed back, when your old self begged for comfort, when the silence felt too loud, you stood your ground. You let the false fall away. And now, what remains is you. Raw, wild, untamed, maybe still afraid, but no longer asleep. And we're not done yet. In the next episode, Society Rewards Mediocrity, Nietzsche's most brutal truth. We'll expose why the world lifts up the tame, the compliant, the average, and buries those who dare to be great. If you're ready to see through the game, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and send this to someone who's still apologizing for being different. Because your truth is not a problem. It's a revolution.